I'm Keith Becker from DD's Rentals. The most difficult, the most problematic aspect of the entire rent control discussion in the city of Santa Rosa and almost anywhere where it has been instituted is its corollary of just cause eviction. Now, just cause eviction, the layman's terms, just cause eviction, you have to have a good reason to ask a tenant to leave. This is a protection that's put into place effectively so that landlords can't, after so many years of one tenant living in a property with the protections allowed by rent control, saying that the rent that can only be raised 3% year over year over year. They've lived there for 10 years and suddenly their rent is 40% below market value. Just cause eviction is designed to protect tenants from landlords simply saying, you know what, you got to leave because I am entitled to more rent. The problem is that while rent control only affects a small subsection of properties that are rental inventory, that subsection is multi-unit buildings built before 1995, just cause eviction, where and when instituted, affects any and all rental properties. You could have built it last year. It could be a single family residence. No matter what, just cause eviction affects any and all properties. Now, what that means is you've got a very short list of reasons for which you might ask a tenant to leave. And that short list is the tenant has repeatedly failed to pay rent. The tenant has substantially violated a term of the contract. They have refused to, and I'm talking about these as terms that have been put into place in other cities in California where rent control, just cause eviction have been instituted. This is not necessarily what the city of Santa Rosa will exactly look like because it has not yet been nailed down. Coming back to the list, you offer them a lease renewal. They refuse to accept a lease renewal. Theoretically, that might be a reason why. Tenant is causing substantial damage to the property. The tenant is being disorderly and disruptive to either adjacent neighbors or other people living on the premises. They're using the property for an illegal purpose. They're dealing drugs. They're illegally subletting the property. They're doing an Airbnb. They are denying access to the landlord. Now, that list, the last few that I just provided to you, sometimes in order to be able to prove this, and bear in mind, if just cause eviction goes into effect, you will likely find yourself having to prove any violations in order to be able to regain possession. You will no longer simply be able to say, you know what, we're getting so many complaints, there's been 80 complaints in the last 30 days, I'm sorry, this no longer works. You now will have to be prepared to stand in front of a judge and prove it. What that means is that you will have to bring in your neighbors, you will have to bring in your other tenants, you will have to have witnesses, you will have to have evidence. It gets significantly more complicated, and you find yourself having to rise to an almost inordinate burden of proof in order to remove bad tenants. There are provisions in just cause eviction which will allow you to either take the property off the rental market, you want to sell, for example, you want to move back into the property yourself, you want to have a family member move in. But the fact is that it is now going to be a tightly controlled list of reasons why you might be able to regain possession of the property. Potentially what that means is that, you've got tenants who effectively have a life estate at the property, and they leave when they're prepared to leave, not necessarily when you decide that for good business practices, it is necessary for you to make a change to who's living at your property. Complicated details, complicated times. Santa Rosa is in transition. If you have questions on just cause eviction, rent control, or anything else associated with property management, please don't hesitate to call. I'm Keith Becker from DD's Rentals.